This is ZTN News on the Go, and we're broadcasting to you live from the Harare Institute of Technology, where it is that the Chief Executive of the Mutapa Investment Fund, Ms. Dr. John Mangunjika, was giving a public lecture aimed at enhancing the degree of transparency with the operations of the Mutapa Investment Fund, which now houses over 60 entities and counting, with assets valued at over 16 billion United States dollars. According to what Dr. Mangunjika did present, is the fact that these are 50% profitable organizations, while the other 50% are not yet operating profitably. And according to the financials, $8 million worth of profit were reported for the 2024 fiscus, and questions, of course, lingering around how to make the entire establishment, the Mutapa Investment Fund, and all the assets that are under it getting to be operating profitably. And of course, we'll be getting into conversations with some of the experts that we do have at this particular event. Government entities were present, state-owned enterprises were represented, multinational corporations were here, Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries is also present, and of course academics have all been a part and parcel of what's been taking place here. And in just a short moment, I will be speaking to the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society, Mr. Mishek Ugaro, to get into some of the teensy-weенsies of what was being discussed here. Mr. Ugaro, your key takeaways from today's proceedings.
Thanks, Eben, for the invitation. I think today's proceedings largely clarified a number of issues that the market had. Issues to do with how exactly is the investment fund going to benefit the populace of the country. Issues to do with how exactly is the Mutapa Investment Fund going to revive a number of the parastatals that are incorporated in its portfolio, and also in terms of it projecting its future in terms of what it is promising as benefits for this country.
Right, $16 billion worth of assets vis-a-vis $8 million worth of profit in the 2024 fiscus. Your sentiment?
This is its inaugural first financial report. You know that the Wealth Fund Act was passed in 2014, but it was activated, I think, in 2023, and the appointment of the executive in 2024. So they've now issued their first report, which shows, as you rightly say, assets of $16 billion with a profit paid to the treasury of $8 million. It's a good start. However, they've got a long way to go, because there's still corporates in Zimbabwe that are actually paying to the fiscus more than the 8 million. However, it's a good start. My challenge to the fund is to just make sure that they do not get boggled down in I call it a minefield, because transforming a big portfolio, a big chunk of the portfolio, which they rightly called dogs, and they are being very transparent, they're being open. They called them dogs, and they know that they have admitted that there's work to be done. So my edge to them is just not to be bogged down in there, so that at least the other three sections, the stars, the cash cows, can actually increase and then reduce dependence on the fiscus, which will ultimately benefit the nation.
I've got to ask this. In the 90s, state-owned enterprises in Zimbabwe contributed 40% to the country's GDP, but today they're just a shadow of what once was, at less than 5% of the country's GDP. How important is the Mutapa Investment Fund at regaining lost glory, and what strategies should they put in place to ensure that we are able to transform that aggregate that's now in the doldrums?
You're very right. In the 90s, parastatals contributed 40% to GDP. Presently, they're contributing 10%. They are actually a drain. In fact, by Dr. Mangunja's admission, when the fund or the wealth fund was launched, the idea was for it to be funded from fiscal surpluses. We know that there were no fiscal surpluses because the parastatals were a draw. So this is actually the reason why the wealth fund couldn't be activated as originally thought. Now the challenge that the fund, the new fund, the investment fund has, is to work out this. And I requested the CEO, Dr. Mangudya, to explain to us how. And pointedly, I asked if they have the freedom to appoint the boards. And he confirmed that Mutapa appoints the boards, they control the boards, which means they have control and leverage over how these parastatals are going to be managed from now going forward. So I have confidence in that.
Right. Still at that, calls have been presented by some of the attendees of this public lecture against the backdrop of the National Development Strategy, where it is that there was an initiative to try and privatize some of these organizations. But it seems from a perspective of the Mutapa Investment Fund, that seems not to be the thrust. Dr. Mangunjika was careful enough not to promise any elements of privatization. So the question now is, should there be any element of privatization, or is the Mutapa Investment Fund being deemed the savior of some of these malperforming, loss-making entities under the Mutapa Investment Fund?
Yeah, from the look of things and even the strategy that has been presented, FIRE it was called, the first word there is fix. I think the CEO is clearly saying we are going to fix first. So you're right, it is looking like these organizations have to be fixed first. Mind you, he also didn't throw out the idea of privatizing, but I think he clearly stated that they are going to fix first. After fixing, then they will determine the way forward. And this is where my fear was, that they may get bogged down in this process. Hopefully they can see a way of segregating that portfolio so that it can be fixed without necessarily holding back the other side of the business.
Right. Still at that, Zimbabwe has an obligation of about 24 billion United States dollars. The Mutapa Investment Fund CEO urging Zimbabweans to see to it that it develops a culture of paying back its obligations. Your takeaway?
Indeed, we must pay back. I think we have to. We used to be very good. As a bank, I've banked in several African countries, and Zimbabwe's credit rating was very good in terms of our culture of paying back credit. But unfortunately, there's been a development where honoring credit is now filtered into the society. But we have to rejig this. This is a national responsibility for all of us, not just Mutapa, but for all of us to pay our debts. Only then can these organizations then also meet their foreign obligations. So it's critically important.
At what point should we consider merging Tel1, Net1, Telecel, and institutions that have the element of replicating the operations of the other?
Okay, maybe the answer may not necessarily be in merging, because if you look at the ownership structure of, you've given an example of Telecel, government there owns, I think, only 60%. So it might be worthwhile to actually dispose what they are holding. But we heard Dr. Mangudya saying we will fix first. Then after that, they will determine what to do, either to merge or to dispose. I would urge to dispose and then capacitate Net1 instead of mixing them, because otherwise the other one brings its own inefficiencies and draws back a good operation.
Mr. Mishek Ogaro, thank you for speaking to ZTN Prime. That, of course, was Mr. Mishek Ogaro, who is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society, giving us feedback against the pretext of what was presented by Dr. John Mangunjika, the Chief Executive of the Mutapa Investment Fund. Much, of course, to take away, much to expect where that presentation is concerned. concerned. Dr. Mangunjika did also highlight the fact that there are prospects for growth and prospects for reconsidering some of the operations. A good example there being just how Air Zimbabwe is coming into the limelight to increase its flight schedule, and a deadline given June for the resumption of the Harare-London flights, and of course much to look forward to. Conversations continue from some of the attendees that have been instrumental where this very public lecture is actually concerned, and of course we want to hear and give you feedback in terms of just how things played out. Ma'am, thank you for speaking to ZTN Prime. Would you introduce yourself and your relevance where this very important event is concerned?
My name is Priska Utete. I am from the ZESA Holdings Group. I am in the Stakeholder Relations Department.
Right. Dr. Mangunjika made reference to ZESA more than any other entity that's represented under the Mutapa Investment Fund. What are your key takeaways as ZESA Holdings?
Our key takeaways as ZESA Holdings are that as an organization, we play a very vital role in the economic growth of this country. And in line with that vital role, and in line with the NDS2 and the country's vision, the President, His Excellency President Emerson Mnangagwa's vision, Vision 2030, as the ZESA Group, we have started and we are in the process of installing prepaid meters for all our electricity users, and so far we have installed 99% for prepaid meters, and we have also started installing smart meters for our large power users. This includes industries, includes the farmers, and any other person who uses electricity above what the normal domestic consumer uses. This project, we are looking at completing this project within the first quarter of 2026.
Quite a noble target at that. But at the same time, Dr. Mangunjika came in strong on ZESA, speaking on the aspect of the need to meet the obligations that are owed to different organizations by ZESA. What do you say where that is concerned?
Are you talking about what these organizations owe us?
Dr. Mangunjika did speak of the obligations that ZESA has to some of the lenders. For example, the Chinese lenders that have extended credit to Zimbabwe. Where are you as ZESA at seeking to meet those kind of foreign obligations?
I would like to encourage our customers basically to make sure that they pay for the use for the electricity that they use. This is the money that we use to finance these obligations that we have with our various partners. You heard Dr. Mangunja speak about the Chinese that helped us build Wange Unit 7 and 8. That has brought in 600 megawatts to the national grid, and we still owe the Chinese company that partnered us for Wange 7 and 8. So I would like to encourage the customers. It's the money, it's the electricity that they use and the money that they pay for use of that electricity that enables ZESA to pay for those obligations. Without the customers assisting us and paying for what they use, it is very difficult for us to meet those obligations.
Thank you for speaking to ZTN Prime. That, of course, was Priska Utete, Corporate Communications at ZESA Holdings, speaking to us on the subject of the feedback that's been had, of course, after the public lecture by Dr. John Mangunjika, the Chief Executive Officer of the Mutapa Investment Fund. During his discourse, Dr. Mangunjika did call upon state-owned enterprises now organized under the Mutapa Investment Fund to, as they invest and reinvest, seriously consider meeting foreign obligations. He also did indicate the fact that Net1 and Tel1 were, of course, products of the old PTC Postal and Telecommunications Company that was heavily indebted, and these two entities still carry some of those obligations from the past. So a conversation is being had around how to reorganize and how to service some of those obligations as these organizations, of course, chart their way forward. Some of the elements that were important to that particular presentation is that more and more financial reports are to be expected. Dr. Mangujika did say that the financials for 2025 have already gone through for submission to the auditors, and conversation is being had in terms of just how to have those financial results sooner rather than later. But critical to what's taking place here is how the operations of the Mutapa Investment Fund feed into the country's economic blueprint, the national development strategy, to the economic blueprint that's supposed to carry Zimbabwe between 2026 and 2030. Well, that's it from this public lecture on transparency by the Mutapa Investment Fund Chief Executive Officer, Dr. John Mangunjika at the Harare Institute of Technology. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Thank you for watching and have a good day.